Good morning to all. So, in this class, we will be revising the third module of this paper, which is the Introduction to Software. So, in this module, we have some important topics that we have to focus on. So, the first one is regarding these operating systems, in which the definition of the operating systems. Then we have the functions of an operating system. Then Microsoft Windows as well as the Linux operating system. After that, we have the free software, then the software license, and also the software tools, in which the software tools for Windows, which is the MS Office, and the software tools for Linux, which is the Open Office. Then we have the computer system security. So these are some important topics that we had to focus on under this module, which is the Introduction to Software. So the first topic is regarding the operating system, the definition of the operating system. So an operating system is a set of computer programs that manage the hardware and software resources of a computer. So I repeat, an operating system is a set of computer programs that manage the hardware and software resources of a computer. So the graphical user interface, which is the GUI, is used for the ease of operation of this operating system, and operating systems themselves have no user interfaces. The user of an OS is an application, not a person, and also the operating system forms a platform for other system software and for application software. That is, operating systems act as an interface between the user's programs as well as the system programs and the physical computer hardware. So this is very important, in which the operating system act as an interface between the user's program as well as the physical computer hardware. So these are some important aspects regarding the operating system, the definition of the operating system, and also some important points regarding the operating systems. Now we have the functions of an OS. So we have the process management, which is the first category of this function, in which the process is a system abstraction, and also the process management is an operating system's way of dealing with running multiple processes. So basically the definition for the process management is that the process management is an operating system's way of dealing with running multiple processes. And since the most computers contain one processor with one core, all multitasking is done by simply switching processes quickly. And also, depending on the operating system, as more processes run, either each time slice will become smaller or there will be a longer delay before each process is given a chance to run. And also, most operating systems allow a process to assign a priority which affects its allocation of CPU time. So these are some important aspects regarding the process management. So basically, the process management is an operating system's way of dealing with running multiple processes. And the one important point regarding the process is that it is the system abstraction. So that's regarding the first function of this OS. Now we have second one, which is the memory management. So the memory management deals with the allocation of memory and other storage areas to the system programs as well as the user programs and data. And the services provided under the memory management are directed to keep to track of memory and allocation, and also the deallocation of memory to various processes. And an operating system's memory manager coordinates the use of these various types of memory by tracking which one is available, which is to be allocated or deallocated, and how to move data between them. This activity usually referred to as the virtual memory management. So regarding the memory management, an operating system's memory manager, it just coordinates the use of these various types of memory by tracking which is available and also which is to be allocated or deallocated, and how to move the data between them. So this activity can be called as the virtual memory management. So the virtual memory management increases the amount of memory available for each process by making the disk storage seem like the main memory. Then another important part of the memory management is the managing the virtual addresses, which means that if multiple processes are in memory at once, they must be prevented from interfering with each other's memory, and this is achieved by having separate address spaces. So that's regarding the managing the virtual addresses. It is also very important aspect regarding the memory management. Then the operating system can also write inactive memory pages to secondary storage, and this process is called as the paging or swapping, and the terminology varies between the operating systems. So basically it is very important regarding the memory management, which is the paging or the swapping. So swapping the memory means the operating system can also write the inactive memory pages to secondary storage. So this process is called as this paging or swapping. So that's regarding the memory management. Now we have the third one, which is the device and file systems management. So a contemporary computer system may include a wide assortment of the input output devices, more formally called as the peripheral devices, and almost anything imaginable can be used as a peripheral device to a computer. And the peripheral devices can be generally classified into two major groups. They are the input and the output devices, as well as the storage devices. So basically the first one is the input output devices and second one is the storage devices. So that's regarding the peripheral devices. And then the all operating systems include support for a variety of these file systems. The file system is intended to provide a convenient management of information so that the user is freed from the problems related to the allocation of space for his information, as well as other physical problems such as the storage format and the input output accessing. Thus, the user need only deal in terms of this logical structure and operations performed on his information. And then the file system may also offer the ability to share the information among the users and protect the information from unauthorized access. And the file systems may provide the journaling, which provides the safe recovery in the event of a system's crash. Then also we have different types of file systems that are available. So we have the NTFS system, which is the NT file system. Then we have the FAT system, which is the file allocation table. Then also different types of this FAT system. Then we have the EXT, which means the extended file system. Then also we have the ZFS, which is zettabyte file system. So these are some important topics that we have to focus on under the file system. Now we have the fourth one, which is the networking. So the networking means the most current operating systems are capable of using the TCP or the IP networking protocols, which means the transmission control protocol or the internet protocol. And this means that one system can appear on a network of the other and share the resources such as the files, printers and scanners using either wired or wireless connection. And also specific protocols for specific tasks may also be supported, such as the NFS, which means the network file system for the file access. So basically with the help of this networking, it can share the data, especially the resources such as the files, printers, then the scanners using either wired or wireless connection. So that's regarding networking. Now we have the last one, which is the security. So the operating system provides the access to a number of resources directly or indirectly, such as the files on a local disk, privileged system calls, then the personal information about users, and the services offered by the programs running on the system. And also the operating system is capable of distinguishing between the some requests of these resources who are authorized to access the resource and other who are not authorized. So we have two important topics under the security. The first one is the internal security and second one is the external security. So regarding the internal security, it means that an already running program, and also on some systems a program once it is running has no limitations, but commonly the program has an identity which it keeps and is used to check all of its requests for the resources. So it is the built-in security in the operating system. Now we have the external security, in which a new request from the outside the computer, such as a login at a connected console or some kind of network connection. To establish the identity there may be a process of authentication. So that's regarding the external security, in which it requires a username or a password in order to connect with the help of this external security. So that's regarding the two important topics under the security. So that's regarding the security. So we have five major topics under the functions of an OS. The first one was regarding the process management, second one was regarding the memory management, then device and file systems management, then we have the networking, and also the last one was regarding the security. So these are some important topics under the functions of an OS that we should focus on. So now we have the second important topics under this chapter, which is the Microsoft Windows. And regarding Microsoft Windows, it is a series of software operating systems and graphical user interfaces produced by Microsoft. And Microsoft first introduced an operating environment named Windows in November 1985 as an add-on to the MS-DOS, which is the Microsoft Disk Operating System, in response to the growing interest in graphical user interfaces. So that's regarding the introduction for the Microsoft Windows. And now we have different versions of Windows are available. The first one is regarding the early versions, in which Windows 1.0, then the 2.0, and also the 2.1H. So the history of Windows dates back to September 1981, when the project named the Interface Manager was started. It was announced in 1983 in November, and then the Windows 1.0 was a program known as the MS-DOS Executive. And also, the Windows 1.0 did not allow the overlapping windows due to the Apple computer owning this feature. Instead, all windows were tiled. Only dialog boxes could appear over other windows. So that's regarding the Windows 1.0. Now we have the Windows 2.0, in which it was released in October 1987 and features several improvements in the user interface and memory management. And then Windows 2.0 allowed the application windows to overlap each other and also introduced more sophisticated keyboard shortcuts, and it could also make use of the expanded memory. Then regarding Windows 2.1, it was released in two different versions, which means the Windows 386 and Windows 286. And also, the early versions of Windows were often thought of as simply graphical user interfaces, mostly because they run on top of this MS-DOS and used it for the file system services. And unlike the MS-DOS, Windows allowed the users to execute multiple graphical applications at the same time through cooperative multitasking. So that's regarding the early versions of Windows, the Windows 1.0 with 2.0 and also the 2.1H. Now we have the Windows 3.0 and 3.1H. So the 3.0, the Windows version was released in 1990 and the 3.1 was released in 1992, improved the design mostly because the virtual memory and loadable virtual device drivers, which is the VADS, then which allowed them to share the arbitrary devices between the multitasker DOS windows. For Windows 3.0, Microsoft also rewrote the critical operations from C to the assembly, making this release faster than the less memory hungry than its predecessors. So that's regarding the Windows 3.0 and 3.1H. Now we have the Windows 95, 98 and ME version. So the Windows 95 was released in 1995, featuring a new user interface, support for long file names of up to 255 characters, and also the ability to automatically detect and configure the installed hardware, which means the plug and place option. And it could natively run the 32-bit applications and featured several technological improvements that increased as stability over the Windows 3.1. And there were several OEM, which means the original equipment manufacturer, service releases, and also the OSR then of the Windows 95, each of which was roughly equivalent to the service pack. Then Microsoft Windows 98 was released in 1998, in which Microsoft released a second version of this Microsoft Windows 98 in 1999, named Windows 98 Second Edition, or it also called as this Windows 98 SE. And then in 2000, Microsoft released the Microsoft Windows ME, which means the Millennium Edition, which updated the core from the Windows 98 but adopted some aspect of this Windows 2000 and removed the boot in DOS mode option. It also added a new feature called the System Restore, allowing the user to set the computer settings back to an earlier date. So that's regarding the Windows 95, 98 and also regarding the Windows ME. Now we have the Windows NT family. So NT family means the new technology. The NT family of Windows systems was fashioned and marketed for higher reliability business use. And the first release was MS Windows NT 3.1, which was released in 1993. numbered as the 3.1 to match the consumer Windows version, and which was followed by the NT 3.5, which was released on 1994, then the Windows NT 3.51, which was released on 1995, then NT 4.0 in 1996, and also Windows 2000 in 2000, and the 2000 is the last NT based Windows release, which does not include the Microsoft product activation, and also the Windows XP, which was released on October 2001, which is recognized as a kind of popular model of this Microsoft Windows operating system. Now we have to focus on the updated versions of this Windows, in which the Windows 7, which was released on October 2009, and then Windows 8 in 2012, and also Windows 8.1 in 2013, and finally the Windows 10, which was released on July 2015. So now we have the Windows CE, which means the Windows Embedded Combat. It is an edition of Windows for minimalistic computers and embedded systems. And Windows CE is a distinctly different operating system and kernel rather than a trimmed down version of the desktop Windows. And also it is not to be confused with the Windows XP Embedded, which is the NT based. So that's regarding the Microsoft Windows, which is the second topic of this module. Now we have the Linux operating system. Then regarding the Linux operating system, it is a generic term referring to Unix-like computer operating systems based on the Linux kernel. Their development is one of the most prominent examples of free and open source software collaboration. Typically, all the underlying source code can be used, freely modified and redistributed, both commercially and non-commercially by anyone under the licenses such as the GNU, which means the General Public License, and the GNU stands for GNU is not Unix. The name Linux comes from the Linux kernel originally written in 1991 by Linus Torvalds. So that's regarding the some important aspect regarding the Linux operating system, the beginning stage. Then the Linux can be installed on a wide variety of this computer hardware, ranging from the embedded devices such as the mobile phones, smartphones and wristwatches, and to the mainframes and supercomputers. However, the desktop use of Linux has become increasingly popular in recent years, in which the party owing to the popular Ubuntu distribution and the emergence of netbooks and the smartbooks. Typically, the Linux is packaged in a format known as the Linux distribution for desktop and server use. And Linux distribution include the Linux kernel and all of the supporting software required to run a complete system such as the utilities and libraries. And the X Windows system, which is used as the computer software system and network protocol that provides a GUI for networked computers, and it provides the windowing on the computer displays and manages the keyboard and pointing device control functions. And the GNOME, which means the GNU Network Object Model Environment, and KDE, the K Desktop Environment, in which the K stands for nothing, and the desktop environments, and also the Apache HTTP server, which is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and commonly used application with the desktop Linux system include the Mozilla Firefox web browser and also the OpenOffice.org Office application suite. So that's regarding some important aspect regarding the Linux operating system. And now we have the history of Linux. So the GNU project started in 1983 by Richard Stallman had the goal of creating a complete Unix compatible software system called the GNU and composed entirely of free software. And Linus Torvalds invented the Linux itself in 1991. Torvalds was a student at the University of Helsinki in Finland, where he had been using the Minix, a non-free Unix-like system, and began writing his own kernel. He started by developing the device drivers and hard drive access, and by September had a basic design that he called as the version 0.01. This kernel, which is called as the Linux, was afterward combined with the GNU system to produce a complete free operating system. And the Linux continued to be improved through the 1990s and started to be used in large-scale applications such as the web hosting, networking, and database serving. So that's regarding the Linux operating system, the history of the Linux operating system. Now we have the Linux distributions. So a Linux distribution is a member of the family of Unix-like software distributions built on top of this Linux kernel. Such distribution, often called as distros for the short, consist of a large collection of software applications such as the word processors, spreadsheets, media players, and database applications. And now we have to focus on the components of this Linux operating system. So a typical desktop Linux distribution comprises a Linux kernel, GNU tools and libraries, additional software, documentation, and also a Windows system, then the window manager and also the desktop environment. And the most of this included software is free software or the open source software, which is distributed by its maintainers both as compiled binaries and in source code form, allowing the users to modify and compile the original source code if they wish. Other software included with some distribution may be proprietary and may not be available in source code form. Now we have the distribution packages. So the distributions are normally segmented into packages. Each package contains a specific application or service. And examples for the packages are the library for handling the PNG, which means the portable network graphics, which is the image format, and also a collection of fonts or a web browser. And the package is typically provided as a compiled code with installation and removal of the packages handled by a package management system, which is the PMS, rather than a simple file archiver. Then we have the distribution types. So basically we have the commercial or non-commercial distribution type, then designed for the enterprise user, supported on the multiple types of this hardware, designed for servers, desktops or embedded devices, then for the general purpose, targeted at the specific user groups, and also built primarily for security, usability, portability, or the comprehensiveness. So the diversity of Linux distribution is due to the technical, organizational, and philosophical variation among the vendors and users. So that's regarding the distributions. Now we have the installation free distribution, which means the using the live CD. So a live CD or a live distro is a Linux distribution that can be booted from a compact disk or other medium such as a DVD or a USB flash drive instead of the conventional hard drive. And we can try these kinds of installation of this live CD. And this is suitable for the demonstrations and borrowing someone else's computers, and for the rescue operations or as the installation media for a standard distributions. So that's regarding the installation free distribution, which means the live CDs. Now we have the popular distributions. So there are different types of these Linux distributions are available. The first one is CentOS, then the Debian, then Fedora, Gentoo, then Knoppix, Kubuntu, then Linux Mint, also the Mandriva, then we have the open source, then the Oracle Enterprise Linux, the PC Linux OS, then the Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the Sabayon Linux, then the Slackware, and finally the Ubuntu, also the Ubuntu. So these are the different types of these distributions, popular distribution from the Linux operating system. So with that, we just wind up today's class, in which today we discussed regarding the first topic, which is the operating system and also the functions of the operating system. Then we discussed regarding the Microsoft Windows, and also finally we discussed regarding the third topic, which is the Linux operating system. So that's for today. Thank you. Happy learning.